Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about the integration options that we have with Zoho Forms. So, in a previous session, we talked about how to create our contact form. So, that's what we're going to be integrating today. Integrations with your forms are really great. There's a number of different things you can integrate it with. So, for example, we can do Zoho CRM where it can create or update a record there. We can do Zoho campaigns so that someone can enter into a campaign by filling out a form. We can do it on Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, so that we're keeping track of all the entries on that spreadsheet. So there are lots of different uh, things that we can integrate with. So it's a very, very useful tool that we're going to want to know how to use. So we're going to be working off of the contact form that we created in the previous session. So we're just going to click edit right here on our list of forms. And then once it brings us to the open form, you're going to see on the top bar integrations. So we're going to click on that. And that's going to bring us over to the section where we can choose what we want to integrate with. So if we look on the left-hand side, we have all of these different options that we can integrate with, starting with Zoho CRM. A lot of different Zoho applications can be utilized here. And then we have like Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, calendars, Salesforce, all of these different options here. Now, one thing to note is one form can only be integrated with one application. So if we have an integration with Zoho CRM, we cannot also have an integration with Zoho calendars. You have to pick one application to integrate the form with. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose over here on the left what you want to integrate with. For the purpose of this example, we're going to use Zoho CRM because I think that's one of the most useful that you'll be using the most often. And so it already has selected Zoho CRM. It defaults to that one. But if you wanted to choose a different one, you would just click it. And then you'll see no matter which one you click on, there's a little button here that says integrate. So we're just going to go ahead and click that. And it's pretty user-friendly. It'll walk you through the steps that you need to take. So first, it's going to ask us which module we want this form to be on. So this can be leads, contacts, accounts, opportunities. So you could even have a form, for example, that will create an opportunity for you or that will generate a task for someone. So there are lots of different options here. We are going to choose the leads, because the contact form ideally is going to be like on our website or a landing page that someone's going to land on after clicking on an ad, something like that. So it makes sense that once they fill out this form, we want it to be imported into our leads module. And then it'll ask what layout you have here. So typically you're only going to have the one layout that is standard. If you have multiple layouts, then you'll have them all listed here. And then next we have our field mapping. So the field mapping is telling the system, I want this field in the form to go into this field in the CRM when the data gets pushed through, right? So on the left, we have the Zoho CRM field. And on the right, we have the Zoho Forms field. So what we're going to do is check for last name in the CRM if we have last name on our form. So if you click the drop down, you'll see it here, last. And then we can add a field, and then we can do first name as well. So we will click on first name. And so now that data is being pushed from the form to the CRM when that lead is being created. So we also have attachment mapping. So if we click add fields here, what this would do, for example, we can choose the lead image inside of the CRM. So if we go to our CRM, I'll just show you a quick example. You do have the option to attach an image to that record. So if I clicked on a record here, this would be the image in the upper left-hand corner. So that's what it's referring to. So I don't have it on this form, but you can add an image upload on the form, and that's what the attachment mapping would be. And then you have a few actions on the bottom. So we have automation and process management. So this means, let's say, for example, that we have some rules. When the lead is created, we have a workflow that's going to send that lead an email. So if we want that to trigger, or if we have a blueprint on that record and we want that to trigger based on this lead being created, then we would check this checkbox. We have attachments and signatures to Zoho CRM. So if you have any attachments or signatures where they're actually signing off on the form and you click this box, it will pull those into the attachment section on the CRM. We have approval. So let's say you have an approval process on your form and you need those to go through another avenue before they're considered an approved record, then you would click this and you would go through that approval process. We also have the GCLID, which is the Google Click Identifier. So this is going to be related to any of your campaigns that you have. So if you're using Google Click Identifier, then you can send those stats to the CRM to utilize those. We have upsert record. So this means that I don't want to create a new lead every single time this form comes in. It means we want to check and see if this person is already in the CRM. If they are, we want to update that record instead of creating it as a new record. So it'll only create a new record if that person's not in our CRM yet. We have assignment rules. So let's say you have assignment rules that are assigning leads based on a certain criteria. So this could be location, specialty, territory, anything like that that you already have set up. You can click assignment rules and it'll assign this lead based on those rules. If you don't click this button, then your rules are not going to be utilized. It's going to default to whoever is the owner of this form. And then finally, we have tag records. So you are able to create tags inside of the CRM. So if we go to our lead, you'll see here, add tags. And so you could do it by industry. So let's just do construction, for example. If we created a new tag and we saved that, then we could filter all the records by this tag if we want to see only the people that are in construction, right? So tag records means that anyone coming in from this specific form should be tagged with a certain tag. So you could click this one if you want to utilize that. And if you did, then you would just choose whatever tag that you have that you want to utilize on that record. Now, it'll also ask if you want the new tag to overwrite existing tags on the record. So that means, let's say I have it tagged as construction, and then they sent in a new form for real estate. Do you want to overwrite that previous tag that they already had? So that's what that means. And then once we have all of our options checked, and I very strongly recommend always choosing the automation and process management, because we always want to trigger our workflows, our blueprint, everything that we've built out inside of the CRM. So once we're done with this part, all we have to do is click integrate at the bottom. And now we're integrated. So you see, we now have a button that says remove integration. So that tells us that it worked. Now, I will probably repeat this many times throughout the course, but test this out before you use it, before you go live. Anything that you're building, you want to test out. So we created the contact form, and then we fill out the contact form, we submit it. We want to make sure that the lead is being created inside of the CRM. And the reason for that is because if we did something wrong, we want to know ahead of time, right? We don't want to wait until we had 100 leads submit their information, and then we realize we have a bunch of information on the form and none of it's in the CRM. So that would become a problem. So always test your work before you go live with it. If that were to happen, what you would have to do is go to all entries for the form, so you can see anyone that has submitted this form, and you would literally have to export this as a CSV. and then import it into the CRM and map all of the fields there. So it's really not a great process to have to go through when you can just have them flowing in automatically. So just test it out, make sure it works. All right. And that's all we have for this session. So I will see you in the next one. Thanks.